Welcome back to Just Plain Scary, Episode 2, Red Eye, that film from 2005 that was directed by Wes Craven and stars Cillian Murphy, King, and Rachel McAdams. And you'd be forgiven for assuming that because of all of that, it might be good. I'm Tierney.
And I'm Wolfgang.
And I have been a flight attendant for 6 years.
I have been one for 3 months.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
this movie kind of sucked.
This is going to be very different than our glowing review
of Quarantine 2
Terminal.
So similarly to how once Quarantine 2 ended, the end credits were rolling and we looked at each other and we said, wait, was Quarantine 2 good? The credits started rolling for Red Eye and we looked at each other and I said, was this worse than Quarantine 2? And Wolfgang said, yeah, because it was.
So, just to give out of the way our spoiler-free summary, basically, while on a flight, a woman is...
It's a fucking Jack Reacher plot, bro.
Yeah.
It's an episode of 24.
While on a flight from Dallas to Miami, a red eye, a woman is seated next to a man who turns out to be an assassin who is trying to coerce her into helping him assassinate a political figure, holding her father as hostage.
Yeah.
And, you know.
What's your review?
The thing is, the movie, it's
not good.
It's fine.
It's not good.
Film. It's kind of like, there's the review on IMDb, it's 6.5 out of 10. I would give it a 5 out of 10.
I would give it a 4.
Because the thing is, it's not the worst thing I've ever put in my eyes.
No, I mean, it's not a horrible watching experience. It's just boring.
Yeah, and that's what's really kind of frustrating. It's supposed to be this, like, exciting thriller.
Yeah.
But it's boring. The twist that we thought it was setting up to be interesting just
doesn't exist.
Didn't happen. Yeah.
I feel like 11-year-olds could write a better Red Eye.
That unaccompanied minor could
have written a better Red Eye. It's not good. It's boring, and the worst thing for me for a film to be, besides just horrifically offensive, obviously, there's bad that's horrifically offensive, bad, like harmful.
Yes.
And then there's bad quality. But if it's still funny or fun, then I'm great with that. I'm down.
Yeah. There's something to catch your interest. There's really nothing to catch your interest other than
Cillian Murphy's White Walker eyes.
Literally, the joke's about, God, please be normal. Get some brown contacts.
Get some brown eyes.
There was a single funny line to us.
Yeah, you know what? I'll say this for the movie. It had me in the first half.
Yeah.
It had me in the first half. I shan't lie. The first half was okay. I was with it. I mean, I thought it was, not really what I wanted it to be, but it was fine. And then the second half just bored the hell out of me, which was really funny because the second half is where all the action is. And the thing is, I don't hate action movies. I enjoy John Wick. I enjoy The Fast and the Furious. I enjoy brainless, mindless explosions and fight scenes, fight choreography. That's my shit. I'm watching that for sure. But it didn't have any of that. It just had kind of mindless, boring action scenes.
And the thing is, once it started to get physical, that's when it got kind of boring because Rachel McAdams and Cillian Murphy are really good actors. So in the first half where it's just them kind of playing off each other, you had really great tension. Right. Like the reveal when we're getting into spoiler territory. This movie doesn't...
That's fine. I mean, listen, who cares? Don't waste your time.
Truly. It's one of those movies where it feels like the kind of movie that you see in other movies, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a background movie.
Yeah.
Like it's playing on a TV while something else is happening.
It's not good.
But anyway, when it makes that turn, when Cillian Murphy's character, Jackson, goes from being flirtatious and charming to outright threatening her, it's a really great moment.
It was good, yeah. Because again, they are really good actors. So they could carry that. That's fine. But they're not action actors. And, in a fight scene, I want an action actor. I love the Crank series. Throw Jason Statham in there. I don't know, just something.
No, call my dad first.
Yeah,
the light reflecting off his bald head into the White Walker eye.
Yeah, and I get it. I get why they cast Killian. He's played a good villain before. He's Scarecrow in Batman Begins. He's really the best part of that film. So this wasn't there for me. And it wasn't there for him. In 2021, during an interview, he literally said that he did not like this film. He said, oh, I watched it. I was like, oh, that's pretty schlocky. That's a schlocky B movie. But if you like it, that's great.
It feels like the kind of movie where it's made by competent and genuinely talented people, but they're going through the motions. Somebody bought like a new summer house and just had to pay it off.
Truly everyone phoned it in.
It's a paycheck movie.
Okay, let's recap. Rachel McAdams is at the Dallas airport. Horrible place to be. She's in town for her grandmother's funeral, and everybody is upset because their flight to Miami is delayed. It's a red-eye from Dallas to Miami, and it's delayed, which happens, and everybody's irate, which happens, and she tells off an asshole in the line because he's being an asshole to the airline employee. And then Cillian Murphy steps in to be the savior, having her back. And then they have a little flirtation, and he guesses her drink at the airport bar, which I guess is cool to her.
Because he's trying to...
He's charming. He's being very charming.
Where he's just like, ooh, I'm thinking vodka. I'm thinking this. No, that's not classy enough. And
yeah.
Things like that.
He's being charming about it. She's charmed. It's fine. And then they end up sitting next to each other on the plane. There's the token unaccompanied minor, which is very funny. There's always an unaccompanied minor on these movie flights. And they're boarding. She hits her head on the overhead bins.
Very real.
Very real. They end up sitting next to each other. She's charmed again. You know, he's flirting it up. And then very quickly, after takeoff, things turn creepy. And he knows things about her life and her father. And, oh, wouldn't you know it, he's a terrorist. There's an assassination plot on this shady politician guy that's staying at the hotel that she manages. And Killian and his team of weird anonymous foreigners are planning to kill him. So they're holding her dad hostage until she gets this politician in the room that they need him to be in so that they can take him out.
The entire plot is they need this politician in a specific room so that way he's able to be assassinated. And so all she has to do is call the front desk and tell them that they need to move rooms and that she has, because she's the one that has the authority and she's the one that can do it.
Right. And she spends the flight trying to get away from him, and he keeps thwarting her plans.
Trying not to do it because she's like, you know, I've talked with him. He's a really nice guy.
This is all after, by the way, our introduction to this politician is him saying the shadiest, racist dog whistle shit on a TV interview.
I believe diplomacy can work, but first you have to have their attention. You have to make, like, a big show.
Yeah, do I have your attention? Straight to the camera.
Like...
And so I'm kind of like, girl, let him die. But...
He has a blonde wife.
Yes, and 2 blonde little kids, you know, to carry the race forward. Just very shady. And then she's like, oh, I've talked to him. He's a nice guy. Okay. Is he? What could you have possibly talked about? But whatever. Anyway, her attempts to get help and get attention don't work. And they land and she stabs him in the neck and then she runs. I don't know. Shit happens. There's a car chase. She kills the assassin that was holding her dad hostage. Killian shows up wearing a dainty little scarf because he's got a hole in the neck from where she stabbed him.
Really funny because after he gets stabbed and there's a commotion, pandemonium, and the flight attendants are like, oh God, we have a medical. We have someone, like, sir, here, we have a doctor. And they pull the asshole from earlier,
yeah.
And he looks at it and he looks bored.
He's so bored. He so doesn't want to be here. And he's like, ugh, I have to do my job.
And then he looks at it and he goes, oh, actually, that's not bad.
That's not fatal. And then Killian just rips the pen out. It's
and then he steals
this lady's scarf.
A dainty scarf.
A dainty little ascot. Running through the fucking airport, doing the Terminator run as he wheezes, looking like a male model that just stepped off the runway.
No, this is such a... In contrast to the movie we just talked about, Bones and All, this is such a movie because the actors always look perfect.
Oh yeah,
their hair
super
always
glossy.
looks
It's that
done.
2005
gloss over
digital. Everyone's made up all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hair is always bouncy, perfect, never a sweat broken.
Mm-hmm.
So it is just very funny to see him do this action movie run, and it's like, girl, this is not it.
It's not it. Looking like a Ken doll. And fucking Rachel McAdams trips over air as she's running. She gets away from him. She carjacks. That's cool. Girl boss moment. She calls the hotel to have them evacuate and get the politician guy and his family out, which that was actually kind of funny because she was trying not to do it, but eventually she gave in and called to have him switch to the room to save her dad. And then she found out that his whole family was staying there and was going to get annihilated, including the kids. And then suddenly she was like, God, guess I have to be a hero now. So she was kind of willing to let him die at first. But they get evacuated out of the hotel. It's fine. Nobody dies. Truly, nobody dies in this movie except for the assassin and then Killian. Which, Killian shows up at her dad's house after she shows up, kills the assassin, and by hitting him with a car, which was great.
She sees him standing right in front of the house, realizes who it is, and she just guns it and hits him.
Literally. It's great. And then she's rescuing her dad or whatever. He calls the cops. And then Killian shows up. And then she and Killian have this little chase fight scene, whatever, through the house. It's kind of,
Here's the thing.
It was fine.
In a really exciting action scene, you want people to be glued to it. I knit or crochet while I watch things, and I can always tell when I'm really absorbed in it, when my knitting is just
pause.
Like staying in my lap. Truly, this movie, even during the exciting action scenes, it doesn't hold your attention.
Yeah.
A lot done on the heel of this side.
Yeah, she beats the crap out of Killian, and then he beats the crap out of her, and then she shoots him, but she just wings him. And then her dad gets the kill shot, which, lame. Lame. She put in all the legwork and doesn't even get to kill this man.
And the thing is, they set it up where her dad notices because the assassin is in a conspicuous, thank you, BMW right outside the house, and
just lurking.
And he goes out and he sees it, and there's a moment where he sees it and he realizes it's not normal, and you see him like wake up after being hit on the floor. So it's setting up to where her dad is going to help fight back, but have him graze Killian, and then Rachel get the kill shot.
Let her curb stomp him or something.
It's just very disappointing that way. And even with talking about like phoning it in, some of the comedy or like the characters are so broad. She has a coworker who's working the front desk, and we're introduced to Rachel's character because the woman working the front desk, which is the counselor from Glee. So
very fun.
I don't remember her name, so she's Miss Glee.
I always just called her Bush Baby.
Bush Baby.
Because she had those Bush Baby eyes.
God, those gigantic baby eyes. So Miss Glee is at the front desk, and there's this older couple who are like yelling at her because she screwed up the reservation and she's trying to fix it.
They're like the cartoonish.
Yes, it's so broad that
angry,
I don't feel anything
disrespectful
because
customers.
They're such caricatures. And like, listen, we work in customer service. Like
we
have
those,
seen some really awful behavior, but there's still this cartoon.
To it. They don't feel real.
Right. She calls Rachel, and Rachel's character like fixes it, tells her how to do it, fix it. And this is introducing us to the fact that yes,
she's a workaholic,
and she is very capable. Mm-hmm. She's a very capable woman. So then when she's in this situation,
she's good at her job.
Yes. And she does in fact have the authority to do this. So she has been targeted correctly. And then they show up again. So the way they were going to assassinate this politician is that they're on the Miami coastline. He's in a corner room
overlooking the ocean,
and these guys are in a little fishing yacht, and they pull out, what's it called?
I don't know. It's a fucking rocket launcher. I don't care what they say it was. They said it was like some sort of javelin missile.
Yeah,
fuck you guys, that's a rocket launcher.
They aim it at the room and they're gonna blow it up, which, girl, just blow up the hotel.
That's
point.
So funny. That was such a funny, at that point you don't really need him to be moved to a hotel. If you have this kind of heavy artillery, you can do whatever.
Yeah. So Rachel, her character's name is Lisa. Once Lisa gets free of Cillian Murphy's character Jackson, hurriedly calls the hotel, tells them that you need to move his rooms back. I know what I said. Actually, just Miss Glee, pull the fire alarm. Like, evacuate everyone. Physically go up there and evacuate him from the suite. So she does that, and she gets there just in time for everyone to run out of the way, so they're just out of the blast range of this missile. And I don't know, it's at this point where it's like, okay, this is a cartoon. Nobody got hurt. And then after this, when Rachel McAdams,
Yeah,
that's just her name,
yeah, whatever. She's barely a character.
Yeah, she runs after everything's resolved with her dad and Cillian Murphy's dead. She runs to the hotel to check on everything, and she meets up with Miss Glee. And it is a funny line where Miss Glee's like, well, you know, we've had a pretty good night other than that one incident.
Which, can we talk about how long this lady has been working? She has been working since 9 at night until 8 in the morning or whatever it is.
She's on the double shift.
That's crazy.
And as they're talking about this, that same old couple shows up to complain that, oh, first we didn't have a reservation, then the roof fell in.
Yeah,
like,
the hotel got fucking bombed.
Yeah, like, oh, what are you gonna do for us? Rachel being like, well, you can fill out a comment card. Like, a comment card. She wants to fill out a comment card, and they're just like, yeah, and then you can just shove it up your ass. It's so drawn out. I get what that moment's supposed to be, but it's...
Like, I know it's supposed to be some sort of one-liner. Oh, she's a badass. She doesn't have to cater to them anymore. But it's cheap.
First of all,
it's
that line
cheap.
should have gone to Miss Glee.
Yeah.
She's the one that we've seen endure this abuse. And it's still, like, it's so broad. It's too drawn out. It's not like...
It's just this whole movie is like cardboard cutout.
Yeah. It's watchable. But it's really, that's kind of the beginning and end. It's really more disappointing because Cillian Murphy, Rachel McAdams, very talented actors.
Yeah. Wes Craven.
Talented director.
I mean, come on. Yeah, it was very disappointing. I took notes for the first 20 minutes, and you can tell that that's when I quit, because I was just whatever. But, so the first scene is this anonymous hand with a wallet, and they're taking everything out of the wallet and then putting new stuff in. And one of the things that they take out is a Costco membership card, which I just think is really funny. And so I wrote that down, represent. And then I wrote down corporate shell, because when Miss Glee calls Lisa and she's like, they're being really mean, asshole customers, or whatever she said about these asshole customers, and Rachel McAdams just goes, there are no asshole customers, they're just customers with special needs.
Tierney and I both looked at each other.
There's not a customer service employee alive that would say that. And then I put Dr. Phil, LMAO. Lisa's reading this Dr. Phil book in line at the ticket counter, and this old lady sees it, and she's just like, oh, I love him.
Oh, isn't he so handsome?
Oh, I love him. I want to have his bald babies. I want them all to have Texas accents. It was so bizarre, and I'm just getting flashbacks from when I was a kid, and my mom loved Dr. Phil and used him to make my life miserable.
Well, and another thing about that is that there's such an inconsistent character, which that's a good thing to point out, because Rachel is pretty far into the book, and as this woman's talking about, she's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm just kind of reading through it.
And she just gives her the book.
Yeah, she gives it to her, and it seems clear that she doesn't really care about it, and she's just trying to do something nice. And later, Mr. Cillian Murphy, still being kind of flirty, is like, oh, I saw you give that book to that lady. That was so nice. And she goes, yeah, that's me, the people pleaser. But we've set up her character. She's the go-getter. She is the get it done. She is competent.
She's not a doormat.
Like, Miss Glee is the one that would be just like, oh, sure, have my book.
I guess.
Is
this will make you like me?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. It was bizarre. And then I wrote Babyface Cillian. And then token UM, as discussed, there's always a token unaccompanied minor in these films.
And they make sure to tell you, like, I'm not a child.
Yeah, I literally wrote, 11. I'm 11, not 9. Because her mom was like, are you going to be okay by yourself? She goes, ugh, I'm not a baby. Yes, you are. But I understand 11-year-olds don't think that they're babies, but they're babies.
But it is very funny to me that that's also a staple of these, where, like, number one, we have to have an unaccompanied minor because we want to have a child in the movie and not deal with their parent.
Yeah, and that's a flight thing.
Sure. But, like, they always make a point to where the kid's just like, I don't understand why you're
why are you babysitting me?
And most of the time, these kids are just bored.
These kids know how it works. They've been doing it. But I will say I did have a UM recently. This was so funny. It was probably one of my funniest interactions I've ever had, because she came on the plane. I always ask if they want anything to drink because that's me. I'm a people pleaser. This girl is 14 years old, so on the older end, and completely deadpan because she so clearly didn't want to be there. She was that token from all these movies. She goes, a vodka tonic. It was so funny. I was like, I kind of want to give you one because you were just so funny.
For the most part, they just ignore you. They just go on their
phone.
phone.
Yeah, they truly don't care. They got their switch. They're fine.
They don't really have the kind of attitude that
yeah,
these movies want these kids to have as precocious, whatever. And for this movie, there was truly no reason to have her be.
Well, she tripped. She tripped Mr. Killian with her duffel bag. But the thing is,
you could set up when boarding the plane that, oh, there's this girl and her mom. Because the only thing she does is Rachel goes to the bathroom to try and buy some time and to try and maybe leave a note.
Yeah.
The girl goes to the bathroom and waits for it, and she notices that Killian comes back and seems to be really aggressive and that kind of
thing.
She
clocks that something's up with this couple.
And so as Rachel is running away from him and he's pursuing, this little girl trips him. Mm-hmm. And that's the extent
That's the end of her. That's true. She
minutes.
She didn't have to be a It wasn't like George in Quarantine 2 where that's a huge plot point.
Yeah.
Then I put sarcastic ass clapping at the gate. That's real.
That's real.
When a flight has been delayed for whatever reason, and they make the announcement that they're going to start boarding soon, these passengers will start sarcastically clapping.
Or if they tell people that, like, we're waiting
on a crew member, and then the crew shows up, these people will start sarcastically clapping. I'm gonna call out. I'm gonna call out and get your flight canceled. What do you want?
I had a time where our whole flight crew was delayed because our flight coming in was delayed, and they were waiting on us, and you could tell there's this big crowd, like everybody just standing in the way, and as we were walking, like, it was not empty.
They call them gate lice.
Gate lice.
When they're all crowded around the gate like that.
But we started walking up, and this one older woman, finally, and did this dramatic arm wave to there. And that did turn out to be our gate, but and then they started clapping, and we all just stared at them. We should have just kept walking.
I was on hot reserve, and then I got called. They're like, you need you at this gate immediately. I'm like, all right. Well, I was already in line to get Starbucks, and I was waiting on my drink. So I got my drink first, and then I booked it to the gate. Could not have been more than 10 minutes. I get to the gate, and this one passenger just so angrily says, we had to wait because you needed to get your coffee? And I said, yeah. Yeah, you did. Die mad about it. I feel like we spend these episodes complaining about passengers. I love passengers for the most part. 90% of passengers are great. These ones make it into the movies.
Well, that's another point that I wanted to bring up. That for these movies, they put every kind of stereotype you can imagine. And for the most part,
9 times out of 10, a passenger is just average.
Yeah, it's just boring.
They're here to get to where they need to go.
They'll respond to your greeting. They'll say thank you when they get off the plane.
Yeah, it's just a chill time had by all.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great. We love our job. And then I put spiked drink / mess with bag. This was another thing that was just kind of irritating because it is a cardboard cutout of a film, but there were so many typical thriller suspense tropes that were so missed that, yes, they're tropes and they are expected, but they're expected because they're good. This could have been a good, interesting moment of Killian spiking her drink at the bar or putting something in her bag. It was heavily insinuated that stuff like that was going on.
Yes, they spend the moment to plant that in the mind of it. Like the same with, at some point, like 3/4 of the way, it was like, is it going to turn out that actually that politician is behind it and he's trying to kill his family? And
also garner support for whatever insidious political plan that he has, because he had such a weird, shady ass speech about getting people's attention, and you have to do something big to get their attention. Do I have your attention?
Diplomacy is secondary.
It would have made so much sense for him to be the main villain, planting this fake target on his back to get his agenda pushed, and then that just doesn't happen.
And at one point, his family, his 2 kids and wife are like on the balcony overlooking. We've established that this yacht is going to be what takes them down. And Tierney made the joke of, right this way, family, stand here. I'm going inside.
I'm going to go inside for a second, though. Like, it would have made so much sense.
And the thing is, Tierney also had a good point. He's traveling with security.
Yes.
So when they show up to the hotel and Miss Glee says, oh, sorry, there's a plumbing problem, which is the excuse Rachel uses. There's a plumbing problem, so that's why we have to move them. She's, oh, I'm so sorry, there's a plumbing problem, so you're actually going to be in this suite. It's a really lovely suite. It's great. And the head security guy is just like, oh, no, we're not doing that. And they looks to the politician. He's like, we have redundant reservations. We're going to go to the Hilton. And the politician goes, well, hang on now. Who made the change? Oh, it was Rachel. It's fine. I know her. That seems
First of all,
so shady.
How do you know her? Because just because she's checked you in a couple times doesn't mean that you know this bitch.
Yeah.
And then, second of all, like you said, the security guy would probably have the say on that.
Yeah.
He works for you, but he literally is protecting your life.
Like, I really feel like in that scenario, because the thing is as they're contemplating for the second of going to another hotel, the wife is like, oh, the kids are exhausted. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think the security guard should be just like, no.
No, we're going to the redundant. This is why they have security. I was so bewildered. They cased the room first and it was fine. And they even checked the yacht and didn't find the fucking rocket launcher.
It was in the ocean.
I know it was in the ocean, but hello, fucking use sonar or something. I don't know. Do you know how much this country spends on the Department of Defense, and you're telling me that they don't have a little gadget?
Honestly, as we were watching it and saying this, Tierney and I looked at each other and we're like, it's truly not her fault. That's on security.
That's on them. Like, at this point, that's not even her fault anymore. That's on them. Hitting head on overhead bin reel. Because it is. Happens every single time. And I put, you better stow that fucking purse. Because she just put her purse on the window of her seat. And that's such a moment in real life. Every time women don't want to stow their purses because for some reason when we say stow your bags, they don't think a purse counts. I have had a passenger, when I said, oh, you have to stow that bag, she goes, it's not a bag, it's my purse. Bitch? What? Pardon? Did you put shit in it? That's a bag. What do you mean? So that's a moment. And nobody clocked it. They just let her keep it there.
But again, that also feels real where it's like, as you're going through, where it's like,
you just don't want to, don't feel like dealing with it. Killian, Killian's White Walker eyes.
I also kept making that joke.
It's so true, though. They look so startling.
The way he has a tendency to look, though, it's that, like, he looks in a way that you can see all around his irises.
I know.
So,
and
like,
it's like that combined with what you said about his skull-shaped face. We're ragging on this man so bad. And I truly think he is one of the most beautiful men alive. But...
you know, it's appropriate. He's Irish. We're only so hard on him because we do like the fella.
It's true.
we do think he's a handsome,
we're Irish.
man.
We can make these jokes. Go back to Cork, Killian.
So I do want to say, I think when he was, it went away when he was being menacing, but when he was being charming in that American accent, it sounded like, hello, I'm an American man. Let me buy you drink.
You hated his American accent.
But when he was being, the thing is, when he was being menacing, like at work.
It was fine, yeah.
It was fine. It was when he's just trying to be charming, like, hello.
Yeah.
I am buying you a drink, fellow American woman. Let us enjoy barbecue. And Coors Light.
I'm not in the IRA. But
she already knew what joke I was about to make. I don't have to make it.
I don't think it was the IRA because the men on the yacht were speaking some random foreign language.
And it's so stupid because
this could just be domestic terrorism.
Like,
this is kind of stupid, yeah. I mean, I would kill most politicians with a rocket launcher, being honest, if I had the ability. And then I put phones on the plane, 3 exclamation marks. Because that's something that I always find very fascinating. I know that it existed, but we obviously have never worked in that era.
And it's so interesting to look at it because at this point it's almost a period piece.
Yeah.
Because seeing how he has...
It's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, and him using the credit card for it to work because of course it wouldn't be
right.
free.
And by phones on the plane, we mean they had handheld phones attached to the plane seats that you could swipe a credit card through and use.
To call.
to call, which is very interesting, especially because apparently your airline doesn't even allow phone calls during the flight.
Nope.
Which is crazy to me. Patrick Bateman in Cell Diatribe. That's right. So
one line that we
this was the moment
so
that Mr. Murphy lost me, because I'm brainwashed by Cillian Murphy. I'm a huge Cillian Murphy fan. And so even when, you know, there's the reveal, I mean, we knew he was the villain, but when there's the villain reveal.
Look at my skull shape.
Yeah, I know. My Gollum eyes. Even when there's the villain reveal, I'm still just kind of like, it's fine. He can do what he wants. Because I'm a huge fan. And then he has this weird incel speech to Rachel McAdams when she's, no, don't kill this man or whatever.
Also, don't kill my dad.
Yeah, and don't kill my dad. And she's obviously freaking out because she thinks her dad's going to die. And he goes... And
he reveals he's been stalking her.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. And he goes, whatever female... Like, what is it? Female-driven, emotion-based breakdown you're having. Wrap it up. And let me give you some male-driven, fact-based logic. Or whatever. It was so... I've been red-pilled.
That's so straight. And what was really amazing is that he was... Whatever female-based, emotional, logic, breakdown, whatever. He goes, you have my sympathy. But let me give you some male.
Yeah, that's right.
Lisa, whatever female-driven, emotion-based dilemma you're dealing with right now, you have my sympathy. But for the sake of time and sanity, let's break this down into a little male-driven, fact-based logic.
And it was just so, whatever the fuck they say over there on 4chan, it was just bizarre. I was just like, okay, no, fuck this man.
Just the panty dryer line.
Yeah, truly. Truly, because here's the thing. So I picked this film for February because, first of all, I'd heard nothing but good things. If you look up airplane horror movies, this film ranks so high on every list. And I'm just kind of like, it's not that slim pickings.
Why?
Why is this high? It's not even horror. I say that I cast a wide net on what I consider horror, and I do. This is not horror.
This is a thriller. It's like
this is a political thriller from the early aughts, very immediately post 9/11, and it's so bizarre to me. This is a mid-movie at best.
Yeah.
And I really just feel like because of all the big names attached to it, everyone is, oh, you gotta check this one out.
And
why?
Because there's a few good moments.
Sure. But I picked it specifically for February because most of what I've seen has been kind of, oh, there's sexual tension between Cillian and Rachel. And I won't lie, there's at least one scene. You know, not even the flirtiness in the beginning, sure. But the scene in the lavatory, I won't lie. That's a moment.
And even at the end, they're landing where she's telling him what happened. And he gives this look of surprise of, oh, what's she up to? You know?
Yeah, there's a moment. But for the most part, there's none of that. It's not like that at all. That doesn't really happen. The lavatory scene, I'll give it. You know, there's some choking involved. I'm into it. He caresses her scar a little bit. Okay.
Multiple times of him like moving around to a different way to pin her
down. Yeah,
down.
girl. He's pinning her on every wall.
And I will say, it's getting to realism, is that the little girl tells one of the flight attendants that, like, there's a woman in there. Oh, well, honey, you can just use the
There's
other
a man
lab.
in there.
And there's a man in there. And there's a woman.
Yeah.
And the finding goes, oh, one of those flights. And some flight attendants would bang on it to get them out. But some of them probably would just wait. And as they came out, just give them like a look.
A nasty look. Well, the other flight attendant did.
And the other
she was like, it's not a motel.
And he goes, sure.
So she did say something.
Yeah,
but
it's not necessarily going to be a big confrontation.
No. I will say, I think I'd been working for maybe 3 years by this point, and I saw a couple. They were clearly a couple. They were young, like young 20s, go into the lavatory together. I get up, I sigh. I'm like, gotta go bang on the door, you know, get him out. And another flight attendant stopped me, and she went, give him 3 minutes, so you're really interrupting. And I did. And then I went over and I banged on it. And they came out, you know, adjusting. And the girl tells me, sorry, he didn't know how to work the toilet. And I was just like, okay. Take your seats. Because first of all, what an excuse. But second of all, even if that was true, I would never tell somebody that. That's so embarrassing. My man can't figure out the toilet. How old is he?
Listen, dumb as a rock, but he knows how to do one thing.
I mean, he was super tall, so... Which was another thing. I was just kind of like, that can't be comfortable. It wasn't a big lavatory. What else did I write? Oh, just the last thing I noted was smooth jazz. Because... the assassin that's waiting outside her dad's house in his little Beamer is literally listening to the most ridiculous, out-of-place smooth jazz session.
And again, in a better movie, it's supposed to be...
It would have been funny.
Right, it would have been funny, or you use that moment to show how disconnected it is. The violence that they're doing, that it's just their job. And that's the thing that was a really interesting moment, was when Killian starts getting creepy and it starts turning in their conversation, and Rachel asks him, oh, are you with the CIA? And he says, ooh, I wouldn't be able to tell you if I was. He goes, yeah, but I'm not. And she goes, oh, are you with the mafia? And he goes, oh no, the money's terrible. And he's so
yeah, it was funny. It was charming
about it. Yeah, there's a better movie hidden in this.
There's a better movie out there
that's
where
actually
it was
like,
the politician.
It is sexy.
Yeah, and it was
exciting.
Sexy. Yeah. This movie should have been sexy, but it was sexless. Everyone was beautiful and nobody fucked.
Even when they get a little bloody, it immediately wipes off.
Oh, it was so daintily applied. It was stupid. Not a good movie. What rating would you give it out of 10 for accuracy with regards to our job?
I would say it was pretty accurate with our job.
I mean, it didn't really do much.
And they didn't really feature it very much. It wasn't like the flight attendants were the main characters, like Quarantine 2, that gave us more to work with.
Obviously, the one big point is that, so Rachel does hit her head on the overhead bin boarding, which is so accurate. And then the whole rest of the film, they have 3 feet of headspace between their heads and the overhead bins. First of all, it's not continuity, because you've already shown us that they're low enough to hit your head on. And then second of all, no airplane has that much room.
Like at one point, right after the seatbelt sign comes on and Rachel's feeling terrified, she stands up. She's fully standing up.
She's fully standing up, and there's still 6 inches of space.
And the flight attendant who's getting the galley ready just kind of looks at her and is like, sit down.
Yeah, that was funny.
And
when she hits her call light button and the other flight attendant just hits the cancel all call lights. I've done that.
So there's a scene where the older woman who Rachel gave the book to is trying to talk to her, and it's when Killian has been drawn out of his seat. And so there's a tense moment where, is she going to have enough time to ask for help inconspicuously with this woman before Killian gets back? And it's tense. And at the same time, the flight attendants are trying to pull the cart up to do service. And they're in the way, trying to get this woman also out of the way while Rachel's asking for help. And finally, the old lady's like, oh, okay, sorry, excuse me, and gets kind of into a seat so they can walk past. And after they leave, this old lady's just like, oh, they're getting so pushy nowadays.
Yeah, and it's like, lady, I will run you over with my cart.
Ma'am, you see us with this cart. And it is also kind of real where you have someone who gets caught out of their seat. So they're just, and I do feel bad when they're just standing by the labs. And it's not where you can just kind of slide really quick out of the way.
Especially if it's a full flight, so they don't even have an empty seat to duck in.
Yep.
I would give it maybe an 8. I don't know how I feel about rating it when they didn't really show a whole lot. Yeah. I'll give it an 8. I don't know. They weren't inaccurate with what they showed.
No. It was so funny because at one point while Rachel's making the call, the first time she's making the call, they go through turbulence. So the signal goes out. And Killian stops the flight attendant. The phone's not working. And she's just like, oh, sorry, sir. During turbulence, it'll go out. Once we're in the clear air, it'll be fine. That's so real.
It's so real.
And also, during this extreme turbulence, she's going through with a basket of snacks. There are flight attendants that whatever the turbulence is, they're going to try and
They're going to do their job. They're going to do that job. They're going to get those pretzels out there.
They are going to get an OJI.
Yeah, they are going to shoot Biscoffs with a t-shirt gun.
Sometimes when it's a really quick service, like you're only supposed to do water and coffee, and it's really turbulent, so we don't think we're going to do it, we'll sit in a jumpsuit and joke about just throwing the waters. We'll hand them to you on the way out, because we do feel bad.
If I'm told that it'll be really bad turbulence, if it's not a super full flight or whatever, I'll go through before we take off and just give people snacks. What would you give it?
think I'm gonna go agree with you because it's not inaccurate, but also we don't have a lot to go on.
Yeah, it's not as fair to rate it against the same rubric as Quarantine 2.
We're literally that's our main.
That's most of the movie,
and we see the details of meeting the pilots and getting the UM and also there's a part of me who cares.
Yeah, who cares? It's a waste of time.
Literally, when we were done, Tierney was like, "So you ready to talk about it?" And I was like, "Do we gotta?"
Yeah, no, you literally were like, "I don't think we have to." I'm like, "No, we have to."
I really want to. I don't hate this movie. It's just it feels like there's not really anything to latch on to.
Yeah, I do want to say my favorite review that I found of this film. Wesley Morris of the Boston Globe felt the film was like a, quote, poor cousin of an episode of 24. Call it 12. Wesley, you're so right, bro.
Nailed it.
You're so right.
Get it.
Get 'em. It was just boring.
It feels like the kind of movie that they would play on a plane before they had individual screens.
I bet they did. Sad. Waste of a fucking Wes Craven billing, a Killian billing.
McAdams.
Yeah. So that's the final review. Could have been sexier.
Should have been.
Should have been sexier. Should have made that fucking politician the villain. I'm so irritated about that. You made him give the shadiest dog whistle politician speech ever, and then, it turns out he's just a nice family guy. Fuck that.
I feel like if you've heard a lot about the movie because you've seen it on all these like top whatever playlists, just go ahead and watch it. It's watchable.
Don't
it's
watch
fine.
it. Don't watch it.
But you're just not gonna, you're gonna be very underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
happy Valentine's Day. All right.
Happy Valentine's Day. Could be worse.
Happy Valentine's Day. Could have been worse.
That's how talented he is. He made himself unfuckable.
Truly insane. Still, could have been worse. Could have been Hostel.
Yeah, that also came out in 05.
Horrible year. Horrible year.
Could have been better. Could have been Madagascar.
The film of 2005.
All right, well, do we want to say what our next Just Plain Horror is going to be for the month of March?
I don't know what it is yet.
Oh, I thought we were going to do...
What were we going to do?
Snakes on a Plane.
Oh, that's right. I was hesitant about that because I was trying to find one that had to do with St. Patrick's Day. And
as St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland, so too does Samuel L. Jackson drive the snakes off this motherfucking plane.
He's basically Irish. Or I was trying to find an Irish...
We like him, he's ours.
Yeah. Or I was trying to find an Irish horror movie that had to do with planes. Didn't find one. Didn't find a St. Patty's one. There isn't even a plane scene in any of the Leprechaun movies. I know. There's one in space. I guess, you know.
We'll look at
Sky.
TikToks of people make on Ryanair, and that'll count.
Oh, so real. No, I remember Ryanair so fondly. I rode in that standing only caboose space in the back. I sat on my duffel bag the whole flight. It was great. It was like 15 euros. Those are the days when you could just fucking sit down on the ground on a plane as you took off and landed. This has been Just Plain Scary.
An offset of First Ones
to Die. I remember the title. It's fine. Happy Valentine's Day. Bye.
Mwah.